And good afternoon, everybody. And how are you? I'm your host, David Steele, and you are watching Real Talks. I hope everybody had a fantastic 4th of July and spent it with family, barbecuing and hanging out and doing all that good stuff. So it was really an off day, really, for everybody yesterday because it was a national holiday. And we're right back at it today. So it's interesting because it is almost right in the middle of the week. I mean, today is Wednesday, so it's interesting in that factor. Um, but there are a lot of stories to get to. So, quick programming note. So coming up later on this week, probably this weekend at some point, the perfect movies. So I've decided to do Skyfall, the James Bond film directed by Sam Mendes, Javier Bardem, Judi Dench. Unbelievable film. Oh, that was made all the way back in 2012. So it was so good, and I really do think it's a perfect movie. Only Bond film ever to gross $1 billion. So that is going to be the perfect movie. Um, so Mob Mondays, I haven't figured that out, but yet, but um, for rewatch Wednesdays, I have a couple of ideas, so I'll let you know when those come in. But anyways, also tomorrow we are going to be having Secret Invasion Thursdays. So be no show tomorrow, but you guys will be getting Secret Invasions on Thursday, and then of course Friday will be the last entry into the Mission Impossible franchise, and I'll be sitting down and watching Fallout. Both I'm going to watch Skyfall and Fallout today. So you guys are going to be getting Mission Impossible Fallout, and then I got my ticket for the fan event, and on the 10th I will be going to see Dead Reckoning Part One. So that I can't wait for that. I mean, just all the things coming out about it. Yeah, so all the reviews are positive too. Anyways, now that we have all that aside, we had a lot of stuff going on today. Um, some interesting things, to say the least, and some worrisome things, I think. But wanted to start the show out with this because this is as we move into further and further into July. Okay, I mean, I was just talking about Mission Impossible, but one of the other movies that is really everybody has a buzz and is dying to see, including Tom Cruise for that matter, is Barbie. So Barbie is this movie that was announced way back when and finally made and everything else. And everybody's like, well, they're making a Barbie movie? What? Huh? So there was an interesting article in the New Yorker. I touched upon it the other day. You guys can go see it on the NewYorker.com. It's a phenomenal article. It touches upon all of the different IPs that they're looking at, and how Barbie actually came into inception and all that good stuff. Anyways, the reason I brought this up because it's always interesting to me what goes on during filming. So anybody who is familiar with this, okay, knows that there were a couple of leaked photographs. And one of the leaked photographs was when Barbie and Ken were rollerblading. So this actually came from Variety. And basically, the headline reads, Barbie set visitors high-five Ryan Gosling, but wouldn't say anything to Margot Robbie. They just looked at her and made her felt, quote, self-conscious. Greta Gerwig revealed in a new interview with Rolling Stone that some of the set visitors on Barbie, the set of Barbie, made Margot Robbie feel, quote, self-conscious during filming when they interacted far more with her co-star, Ken, actor Ryan Gosling, than they did her. Gerwig was talking about the time the crew spent filming a rollerblading scene in Venice. Set photos from the scene for Robbie and Gosling in neon outfits leaked last summer during production, and this is the photograph right down here. How Barbie operates in Barbie Land is entirely continuous with her environment, Gerwig said. Even the houses have no walls because you never need to hide. There's nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed of. And suddenly finding yourself in the real world and wishing you could hide. That's the essence of being human. But when we were actually shooting on Venice Beach with Margot and Ryan, and neon rollerblading outfits. It was fascinating because it was actually happening in front of us. People would go by Ryan, high five, say, "Awesome, Ryan, you look great." And they wouldn't say anything to Margot, Gerwin said. They just looked at her. It was surreal. In the moment, she did feel self conscious. And as the director, I wanted to protect her, but I also knew the scene was her shooting being the scene where she felt exposed. So she was exposed both as a celebrity and a lady. Gerwin added, to be fair, Ryan was like, "I wish I wasn't wearing this vest, but it was a different kind of discomfort." Rollerblading outfits became one of the most viral sensations to emerge from the Barbie movie. Appearing on The Tonight Show last year, Robbie called the leaked photographs mortifying. I can't tell you how mortified I was, by the way, Robbie said when she hosted with Jimmy Fallon. As the viewers saw the photos, we were like laughing and having fun, but we were dying on the inside. Dying. I mean, it was like, this is the most humiliating moment of my life. When asked if she thought the Barbie set photos would dominate the internet buzz the way they did, Robbie said, "No. I mean, I knew they would have some exteriors to shoot in LA. I knew once you were doing exteriors, you'd get packed. There's probably a little crowd going on, but you're never going to take notice because, we stand out a little bit in those outfits. So I knew there was going to be a little bit of attention, and probably some of those photos would get out there, but not like it did." She concluded by going on saying it was like mad. It was hundreds of people watching all the time. And of course, that hits theaters on the 21st. But I thought it was very telling, okay? Because that being said, we see her, and the piece goes on to talk about it. Gerwin said this. Not only was she exposed as a celebrity, which is hard enough, okay? But now she gets exposed as a woman. And I think that being said, and look, I understand the script called for it and everything else, but you have to feel for her. You really do. Because at the same time, she's just doing a job, right? She's just doing a job. And I think that when you have somebody of her stature, who's arguably not only one of the most beautiful women in the world, but one of the most famous women in the world, and she's been getting all of this work for the past 5 years, whether it's The Big Short, Wolf of Wall Street, Barbie. I mean, you name it. She's even rumored to play Sue Storm in the upcoming Fantastic Four. I mean, all that being said, though, but when you see somebody that is getting all of the praise and everything else, and then on the flip side, nobody's getting the praise. I kind of wish, and even Ryan said to a certain extent that, hey, look, this was uncomfortable, but it was for a different reason. And I think that, I got to be honest, it had to be tough for her. It had to be really, really tough for her to go through this. And so, I mean, I'm sure we're going to all look back at this in a couple of years, especially if this is a financial success and she's going to be more comfortable in her skin. Right now, and this is why I always say this, guys. We look at the here and now, and then we look at the, let's say, give it some time to breathe, and let's say 5 years. Whether it's something like The Flash or Indiana Jones 5 or even Barbie or whatever else. This is why films have to be examined here, right now in the moment, and 5 years from now. And I think that if they do decide to go on and make a Barbie sequel, which, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen the film, but I think that this is going to be really a fun movie. And, I've always said, and I'm going to be flat out honest about this. I have my doubts, not because of the movie's content. I'm in love with this movie. I can't wait to see this movie because of the last trailer, and that's what hooked me. But because of the release date. I just don't know. And look, I understand it's counter programming and everything else. I get all that. I just wonder if hold on, guys. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna contact StreamYard because this is ridiculous. So, but getting back to what I was saying, I really wonder. I mean, this is why you have to examine films, and I think that if there is a sequel to this, and I have no doubt if this is successful, there will be a sequel. She'll feel more comfortable in her own skin and everything else. Um, but I do feel bad for her because at the same time, nobody should have to go through that. I mean, she should have gotten just as many, high fives from people as with Ryan. It's that simple. And I mean, obviously she's not. And then you have the set photos leak, and that's another thing. She said she was mortified. I mean, you got to wonder too if this isn't a real success. Is she going to want to come back and do it? Right? I mean, there has been. I mean, next to Guardians 3, next to Mission Impossible, this is up there. I mean, you can mix them up all you want. Those three movies are the top three most anticipated movies. And you got, like I said, you got to wonder if this is successful, does she want to come back because of all of this? Because this may be the detractor that be like, I'm not, there was a lot of stuff going on before. I don't know if I want to do this again. Let's just put it behind me and move on. So, once again, I feel bad for her. I mean, I'm sure she's going to do great, but I feel bad for her. Anyways, guys, what do you think about when you hear a story like this that Margot Robbie was self-conscious about her, her position when she was doing this? Do you feel bad for her? Do you think Ryan should have said something to everybody saying, go over and talk to Margot, she really needs it? Or do you think he should have just kept his mouth shut? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay. So, as I was just talking about, so there's a little movie coming out the week prior to Barbie. And this movie, as I said, it's one of the top 5 most anticipated films of the year. I mean, we've already had Guardians. The Flash was right up there. We all saw how that did. Indy was right up there. We all saw how that did. The next big movie, okay, is only about a week away. And that's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. So this film, so all the embargo lifted today. Everybody's given this positive ratings. Everybody. And so not that the positive ratings needed it, okay? Not that it says if you like this, go see it, because either you're going to be a fan or you're not, okay? But it's fascinating when stars come out and make comments about things that they want to keep going and doing. So Tom Cruise, just a couple days ago, okay, he turned 61 years old. God, I hope I look that good when I'm 61. But nonetheless, but he just turned 61. He's been acting. One of his very first roles was all the way back in 1980 with Taps. He's been acting for over 40 years. And he's worked with a myriad of directors, a number of stars, just story after story, Academy Award winners. I mean, he's had, without winning an Oscar, he's probably had one of the most distinguished careers of all time. I mean, that's being genuine and honest. His career is really broken into 2 halves. The first half was from like 1980 to 1996. Okay, doing all of those films. I mean, 86 just sent him into another stratosphere with Top Gun, literally and figuratively. But that's 16. And then from 96 to the present, the next 27 years, okay, he's given back. all he has done is Mission Impossible films. And they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, so by the way, guys, like I said earlier in the show, to start off the show, stay tuned for Friday when I'll be coming back here and talking about Mission Impossible Fallout. So right now on the channel, you can watch, I'll leave the link up in the little box there. I've reviewed every single Mission Impossible. I've rewatched them and gone back and watched them and reviewed them. Every single Mission Impossible film. So we've only got one left, and that's Fallout. So I'll be doing that on Friday. And then, of course, we have this on next week. Anyways, the point is, he wants to continue making films until he's Harrison Ford's age. Harrison Ford just turned 81. 80 or 81. So here's the article. And it says, according to Variety, Tom Cruise wants to keep making Mission Impossible films until he's 80. Just hope Harrison Ford, and just like Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones, I hope to still keep going. Harrison Ford just wrapped up his tenure as Indiana Jones in the fifth and final installment in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which opened in theaters just a few weeks before the actor's 81st birthday. Tom Cruise hopes to have the same longevity when he comes to play Ethan Hunt in Paramount's long-running Mission Impossible franchise. Speaking to the Sydney Morning Herald of the Australian premiere, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Cruise said he wants to keep making Mission Impossible movies until he's Ford's age. Cruise just turned 61 a couple days ago. Harrison Ford is a legend. I hope to still keep going. I've got 20 years to catch him, Cruise said. I hope to keep making Mission Impossibles until I'm his age. Although Ford ended his run as Indiana Jones at 80, he has no plans to give up his acting career. I don't do well when I don't work, he said in June when announcing he will not retire from acting. I love to work. I love to feel useful. It's my Jones. I want to feel helpful. And it's the people you get to work with, the intensity, the intimacy of collaboration. Cruise also weighed in on the viral photos of him holding up movie tickets to the summer tentpoles of Barbie and Oppenheimer. The actor admitted that he hasn't actually seen either tentpole just yet, but he plans on doing so opening weekend. I grew up seeing movies on the big screen, Cruise said. That's how I make them. And I like that experience. It's immersive. And having to feel that community and industry, it's important. I still go to the movies. I want to see both Barbie and Oppenheimer, he said. Excuse me. I'll see both opening weekend. Friday, I'll see Oppenheimer first, and then on Saturday, I'll see Barbie. So, yeah, I mean, this is the fact that he's still making these movies 27 years later. 27 years later. And it's just, that's the thing about him. That's the thing that people don't understand about Tom Cruise. And this is why I keep reiterating to people, he is the last movie star out there. And you say, well, what about Leonardo DiCaprio? He's a movie star. You're right, he is a movie star. But he's a different kind of movie star. Okay? Tom Cruise is the only person in Hollywood that not only produces his own things, but he will spend years developing them. Everything, that's why, that's what I tell people, too. This is the difference between DiCaprio and Cruise, okay? Cruise does, if he can do it practically, he'll do it practically, okay? Whether it's the train sequence, whether it's the jump off the cliff, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's climbing the tallest building in the world, whether it's hanging off the side of a plane, he'll do it practically. Now, he'll use CGI every now and then, okay? But at the same time, he understands there's that wow factor, there's that pop, because Hollywood is supposed to be about not only community, not only making, entertaining, but it's magic. When you see somebody jump off a cliff like that, you go, what? Huh? Really? Yeah. And then when you look at the backstory behind it, and love the BTS stuff, okay? When you look at the behind the scenes stuff, okay? And you go, my God, they developed this for a year. And this is why these movies take so long, guys. This was a 3-year shoot. I mean, granted, you had COVID, that interrupted it, but still, this was a 3-year shoot. I mean, whether he's hanging off the helicopter in Fallout, or whether he's, doing all of these things, that's one thing Cruise does. He keeps himself in tip-top shape. There is no other actor. He is a professional's professional. Okay? And he's wearing all these different hats too. He's wearing producer, he's wearing actor, he's wearing cinematographer, he's wearing all these different. He's always said in multiple interviews, okay, that he loves to know everybody else's job. I mean, he literally was like a cinematographer in Top Gun Maverick. And that was brand new technology. There's a reason why that movie made $1.5 billion. And part of it was the story, but they did everything practical. And that's the biggest thing. When you have everything done practically, then you go, wow. And it's one of those things where I think that, I said it before, and it wasn't a hot take. And look, if Top Gun Maverick can get nominated for Best Picture, I'm not saying it has. Look, I want to be crystal clear, okay? I'm not saying this thing has any chance of winning Best Picture. I'm not saying that at all. This will be an 8, 9, or 10. But now that we have expanded to 10 films, and, you've seen other films get nominated and you go, huh? I would not be shocked or surprised. And I put out a tweet today. By the way, guys, if you want to go follow me on Twitter, this is my Twitter handle down there in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay? I'm either tweeting about movies, or I'm in spaces about movies, or I'm conducting spaces about movies. So go follow me there. And if you, send me messages about tweets, I'll definitely reply to you. All that getting back to what I was saying, though, I wouldn't be shocked or surprised if we're talking about when Oscars roll around, if this gets a Best Picture nomination. And you say, but David, none of the others have been nominated. You're right. But look at what they did with Dune. Dune was a two-parter. I mean, you have 2 films. That got nominated for Best Picture. And yes, that did have some technical things. Look, don't be shocked if this gets a Best Production Design, or a Best Editing, or, even a Best Screenplay. I know it sounds out there, but you've already seen, we could have had 3 sequels, get nominated for Best Picture last year. We only had 2, Avatar: The Way of Water and Top Gun Maverick. Okay, we could have had Wakanda Forever. A lot of people thought that could have gotten nominated. Okay? That being said, this is a part 1 of a part 2. I don't think, personally speaking, I think they're going to go above and beyond. It's going to be amazing. But I think I'm going to go out on a limb. This is going to be a hot take. I think this is getting nominated for Best Picture. I do. You have to look at it like this, too. We're already 6 months through the year. How many films, of all of the films that have come out this year to date, how many films are there that are going to get absolute spot on dead locks? Not a lot. Not a lot. Okay? Now, in the second half of the year, we've got a ton of them. Okay? We've got Dune Part 2. We've got, Killers of the Flower Moon. We've got, all of these other films. Okay? So if you're trying to come up with 10 movies, and they will say, well, Spider-Verse could be in there too. True. And there's precedent for it too. I mean, you had Toy Story 3, you had Beauty and the Beast, you had, other films there. But now we're starting to see a little bit of a shift. Because now the Academy is starting to put in films that are blockbusters. Well, you could say, well, Avatar 2 came out in December. True. But look at what it did. Look at what it did. It doesn't matter it shouldn't matter when a film is released. Okay? If a film's released in August, then fine. If a film's released in February, okay. But it needs to be in that calendar year. You have to base it on quality, not when it is. Now, there have been films that, look, should have been nominated for Best Picture. One of them that, I did for the Perfect Movie series that literally changed the game in The Dark Knight. Okay? The Dark Knight literally changed how we view films and how many Best Picture nominees there are. We went from 5 to 10. Okay? For many years, it was up to 10, and now they went to a hard 10. So, once again, I go back to what I was saying. How many solid films have there been to come out for the, from January all the way down to now that are Best Picture nominees? And you can't tell me Super Mario Brothers. Okay? Look, if you're going to nominate Mario, just play this out for a minute. If you're going to nominate Mario, okay, which, by the way, will definitely get in Best Animation, and that's why they have a whole category for it. It has to be so spectacular that it blows everybody away. So play this out for a minute. Assuming for a minute you nominate Mario for Best Picture as one of the 10 best films of the year, you've got to put Spider-Verse in there too. You have to. You have to. Because not only did it save, I won't say save it, but it was a very different kind of film. And the reason why Mario was so good is yet, A, it was nostalgic. B, it was only 90 minutes. And C, it's one of those things where right now it's the only billion-dollar movie. Okay? It's the only billion-dollar movie right now. Now, if you're going to talk about, right now, as it stands, and by the way, it's the third highest grossing domestic film of all time. Or not all time, this year. Okay? So I think that you've got to really put that in perspective. So, but I do think that, so as it stands right now, worldwide, okay, Super Mario has made $1.33 billion. Okay. Hey, Meadow, how are you? Glad that you could join me. So I was just talking about, so if you're going to talk about putting Mario in there, okay, you have to talk about putting Spider-Verse in there. You have to. Okay. Right now, Spider-Verse has made $611 million. It is number 4. Okay. So, if you're going to do now, both of those will be in there for Best Anime. I'm just saying this. If Maverick made, I believe it was $1.5 billion, okay? It's $1.5 billion last year. Well, we'll call it $1.5 billion. It was 1.495. Okay. If Maverick made $1.5 billion, okay, and you put that in the Best Picture, knowing it wasn't going to win, what do you think this is going to do? I'm not saying it's going to make $1.5 billion. I'm just saying that I think that it would be really negligent of the Academy to not do that. Really negligent. But just getting back to the whole point, though, Cruz says he wants to make these things until he's 80, which leads me to another question. Okay? When I read this, I was kind of baffled. Now, I was under the impression that every time you see a part 1, okay, it was like a super finale. With the exam, you could take Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. You can take Harry Potter, The Deathly Hallows, Part 1 and 2. You can take The Hunger Games, Part 1 and 2. You can take whatever you want. Now that he's said, I want to make these things until I'm 80, does that change things? I mean, look, he can certainly do it. The man can certainly do it. I mean, he just turned 61. The man can certainly do it. Okay? The question is, and look, these are always going to make money. Okay? Fallout made almost $750 million. Okay? So they absolutely make money. I'm not saying that. The question is, and when you look at it like this, okay, you've got a release date for Part 2, Dead Reckoning Part 2. Okay? He is a space movie. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this. I believe Tom Cruise has another movie coming out. Okay? It's supposed to be like a space type of film to be coming out. So that being said, let me look here real quick. I believe so. He has an untitled SpaceX project. So as it stands right now, okay, there's a film in production, which is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2, which we all knew was going to happen. Then projects in development. He has 5 of them. One of them is a SpaceX project. One is Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat. Of course, that is supposed to be a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow. And then you have a couple of others. So, I mean, does he come back? Think about that. I mean, I gotta believe. I mean, he says he wants to do it until he's 80, and I have no doubt he could. But he's got all these things lined up. I mean, these things, that's what people don't understand. These things take years to develop. I mean, they had this going well before. I mean, once Fallout was done, they were starting to do prep on Dead Reckoning. Because they had to do the motorcycle jump. They had to do everything about it. So, anyways, guys, what do you think about Tom Cruise actually saying he wants to make Mission Impossible film until he's 80? Do you think he could do it? Or do you think he has too many other things on his plate? Do you think people would actually want to come back and continue their roles in these Mission Impossible films? Or do you think they'd walk away? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to it. Okay, so we all know one of the most popular characters besides Spider-Man, okay, is really Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange has been like the premier guy. I mean, when you really think about it, he wasn't in a lot of Endgame, but he was in I won't say pretty much, but a good amount of Infinity War. I mean, he had obviously the time stones, so that kind of really put things in motion. So that being said, he's been in some of the biggest movies Cumberbatch has of all time. I mean, take a look at, these two in the middle here with Spider-Man No Way Home and they made almost $4 billion. Multiverse of Madness made almost $1 billion being subpar. Because I think that it was basically a sequel, if you will. Even though it wasn't a real sequel, it was a continuation of the project. And that's why No Way Home made so money. And there was a bunch of other good films there. Anyways, but even Scott Derrickson did a hell of a job back in 2015 with Doctor Strange. I really, really like Doctor Strange. And to see his arc go to where it was and is now is incredible. And that's one of the cool things about Marvel is that you can have somebody start and you just watch their arc. whether you're talking about Mark Ruffalo with the Hulk, or you're talking about somebody like Black Widow, or you're talking about somebody like Doctor Strange. It's really cool to see all this happen. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is because Bendect Cumberbatch hinted at a Doctor Strange Marvel return in the new MCU film next year. Bendect Cumberbatch is seemingly not done playing Doctor Strange in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The actor recently hinted at his return in a movie next year. There are some Marvel capers in the making next year, he said, while being a guest on the JW3 speaker series. It's not clear if Cumberbatch is referring to a standalone Doctor Strange sequel, or if he's making another appearance in another film of the MCU like Kang Dynasty, which was recently delayed. Cumberbatch first played Dr. Stephen Strange in the 2016, by the way, I was incorrect, I said 15, 2016 film Doctor Strange. The actor would reprise his role in Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, No Way Home, and then, of course, Multiverse of Madness last year. It was in the Multiverse of Madness that a post-credit scene hinted at a possible future for Doctor Strange. In one of the scenes, Charlize Theron played a character named Clea and tells Doctor Strange that he, quote, he caused an incursion and we're going to fix it, end quote. When Clea asked Strange if he's afraid, he said, not in the least. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness writer Michael Walden teased a little bit about Strange's future in an interview by saying, we knew we wanted to introduce Clea. She's Strange's great love in the comics, and it felt to me like Strange wasn't at the point at the start of our movie he was ready to meet the love of his life. It felt like we had to close the loop that he and Christine Palmer had. And so after she gives him wisdom not to be afraid with loving someone, that he felt it was right to tease what he could with he and Clea. So I think this is an interesting little thing. So I think that we're probably going to get something with it's probably going to be some sort of I would be shocked if it was a feature film, because we would have heard about it. Okay, this could be a Disney Plus series. I mean, I know that's a shock to even think about, but this could be a Disney Plus series. And I think that if that's the case, you say, well, why would you put that on Disney Plus? Because I think that there's a possibility it might, unless you're doing a whole Clea series on her own. I think that he's probably going to be in Kang's Dynasty. If I had to guess, he's probably going to be in Kang Dynasty. And by the way, next year, I can't see anything coming out next year for that, because you have the strike. Even if the strike ends, let's say the end of the summer, August, they've pushed everything back. So to have something come out next year doesn't make any sense to me. So, I mean, it will eventually come out, but I just don't think it will come out next year. Unless, and there is a big unless, excuse me, unless they are so far into post, okay, that they'll be able to release it. That's the only thing I can think of. Okay. So, as it stands, let's see. So let me go real quick to what he has. And so upcoming. Okay, so he's got 15 things in pre-production. So the next thing that the MCU project, at least, the next MCU project is Secret Wars. So he is going to be in Secret Wars. But beyond that, I think that there's nothing else there. So, I mean, you have to ask yourself, how does he know this? I mean, obviously he worked on the project, but why would he believe that this is coming out? And by he's teasing. He said possibly next year. There's no definitive thing. I think that it would be very interesting. If they're going to do something like this, I would like to see more of America's character be fleshed out. Because I think that's one thing that really was lacking for Multiverse of Madness. I think that, they did not develop her nearly as much as they should have. And look, it was that was really the beginning of the subpar movies. Whether it was Thor, um, Thor: Love and Thunder, whether it was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, whatever it is. Okay, I would have liked to have seen that more fleshed out. So that will be interesting to see. I don't know. I mean, if anything, I think he's just saying that it's got to be a Disney Plus series. It has to be. Anyways, what do you guys think about a possible Doctor Strange series or thing coming up next year? Do you think he was just teasing us, or do you think there actually is going to be something? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. So I'd like to say, so one of our members, Meadow, actually is a very loyal member, and he comes in quite often, and wanted to give a shout out to his wife, Sam, and say hello to her, and I hope she's having a fantastic day as well. And yeah, and thank you for joining me for the day. So I love when people come in and they're able to sit down and talk movies and everything else. But yeah, so a warm hello goes out to Sam. So, so I have one more story, and this one is, I got to be honest, it's kind of disturbing. Entertainment based, obviously, and there is a reason why that people don't like him. So so we'll just use these two. So one of the biggest things out right now and has been going on is Max. It's been HBO Max. And so the reason I bring this up, so David Zaslav's been under a lot of heat. Okay. For the past, I'd say 6 weeks. You're welcome, Meadow. Not a problem. So the fact is that he has made a lot of unpopular decisions. Okay. Unpopular decisions. And the thing is that when he's made unpopular decisions, I mean, we're going, whether it's a TCM decision and cutting that and people haven't come in, whether it's, what they did with the content, whatever it is. Anyways, and by the way, a lot of it's deserved, okay? Anyways, the reason I bring this up is Deadline reports that David Zaslav an article about David Zaslav was taken down by GQ after Warner Brothers Discovery raises questions. GQ magazine has removed an article about WBD CEO David Zaslav from its website after the company objected to the article. The unflattering piece about freelance film critic Jason Bailey appeared Monday. It cataloged a number of moves by Zaslav, particularly decisions at Warner Brothers Max and TCM, which had made him, quote, the most hated man in America, end quote. Bailey wrote that Zaslav is, quoted, only good at breaking things, end quote, comparing him to the businessman played by Richard Gere in Pretty Woman. The article then went through a round of edits before being removed from the site without explanation after the company complained and Bailey asked for his byline to be removed. One change removed the quote, "the most hated man" line and replaced it with the face of a rocky and controversial new period in Hollywood. Archived versions of the original and revised article, which, by the way, I'm going to put the original article. I'm going to read you part of the original article because I want you guys to hear some of this stuff. Has been circulated on social media and the Washington Post in both its piece and the flap. Okay, hold on. I want to finish the deadline piece first, though. Okay, so it's unusual for a publication of GQ's calendar to remove any article from circulation without offering an explanation to readers. It also can take months or even years for a piece to be taken down entirely, but things move far too quickly in this case. Castnote, owned GQ, said it has identified several errors in the piece made by Bailey, and the piece was prematurely published. A piece published by GQ on Monday was not properly edited before going live, the magazine said in a statement provided with the deadline. After revision, the writer of the piece asked to have their byline removed, at which point GQ decided to unpublish the piece in question. GQ regrets the editorial error that led to the article being published before it was ready. WBD's main point of contention was that it never contacted Bailey at any stage of the writing process, which is not the norm for a corporate coverage in general. The freelance reporter made no attempt to reach out to WBD to fact-check the substance of the piece before publishing, a standard practice for any reputable news outlet, WBD said in the statement. As it is standard practice, we contacted the outlet and asked that numerous inaccuracies be corrected. In the process of doing so, the editors ultimately decided to pull the piece. CEOs by nature tend to be highly visible, but the latest episode extends a run in a particular bright spot for Zaslav, who ascended to a larger throne after shepherding the $43 billion merger of Discovery with Warner Brothers back in 2022. In overseeing assets like Warner Brothers Pictures and HBO, a big change from steering cable networks known for unscripted programming, the exec has presided over some financial improvements, but his managerial approach hasn't always hit the mark. In the past 6 weeks alone, he elicited boos from students and striking WGA members while delivering a commencement speech at BU, Boston University, who raised eyebrows throwing a lavish party in Cannes in a time of cost-cutting labor unrest. Alarmed A-listed filmmakers, including Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese, with a significant round of staff cuts at the cable-cutting TCM. So that is the piece from Deadline. And here's what I'm going to do, because I think this is necessary. I'm going to read some of the actual article. This was the unedited article. And it needs to be, and by the way, I'm going to put a link in the description so you guys can read the whole thing. I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing, but I do want you to get an idea of exactly what was said. Okay? So basically, he goes on, it goes on to tell in the first few paragraphs, it goes on to talk about his troubles, okay? And so he tried to, when he had the speech at BU and everything else, okay? It says that filmmakers were extremely upset, including Christopher Nolan. So this is a quote right out of the article. In his slight defense, there were considerable challenges awaiting the CEO of the new Warner Brothers Discovery conglomerate, whomever that may have been. Warner Brothers had, like most motion picture studios, struggled considerably with the pandemic. Their decision to simultaneously stream their entire 2021 theatrical slate on the HBO Max service upset other filmmakers, including those films who were impacted by it, and theatrical chains as well. One example, Christopher Nolan, whose enormously profitable relationship with WB dates all the way back to 2002. Of course, he ended up doing the Dark Knight series trilogy. He was so pissed off that he took his new film Oppenheimer to Universal out of frustration by the poor handling of the 2020 film Tenet. Okay, that's just one example. He says basically it goes on to talk about the things that are. So this is another thing. In retrospect, the right person for healing those wounds and reestablish relationships with the filmmaker might not have been the guy best known for some of the reality shows like Dr. Pimple Popper and some other things. And to be fair, figures from the world reality TV has been seen with suspicion. So, but Zaslav himself did no favors and did little to blur that binary, but announcing the merger between HBO Max and Discovery, in his quarterly earnings call, with a much derived infographic deeming HBO Max's scripted program as male skewed, appointment television, lean in, and female as comfort. So this is what he did. This is how he described. Now, by the way, I do use the term appointment television. I don't say appointment viewing, but appointment television, because I think it's we don't have that anymore. Okay, I mean, back in the 90s when you had things like Friends and ER and CSI, that was appointment television. Okay, Big Bang, whatever. But I'd never, ever, ever go so far as to say some of the things here. For example, male skewed. Okay, this, female skewed, unscripted, lean back, comfort viewing. You don't need to do that. This tells you how out of touch he is with things. And I think that's a serious problem. Anyways, I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing, okay? Like I said, I'll leave the link in the description. Here's what I want to get at, though, okay? And here's where I come down. I think, and this is just me, when you start to, and I don't know Bailey. I don't know this guy Bailey and how he operates and everything else. But he obviously knows, he's a journalist. He knows what he's supposed to do. But when you have a company basically say, well, I don't like what you said about this, me, and this, and this. Okay, mind you, this was one of the same guys that touted The Flash as being one of the best superhero pictures of all time. Okay. He doesn't know film. He doesn't know television. He's a businessman. Okay. That's all he knows is business. He has dollar signs in his eyes all the time. So when he's cost cutting, like, whether it's TMC or, the piece went on to talk about Batgirl. It's one of his, $90 million he wrote off. And I mean, that in itself was brutal. Because here's the thing. You had a film, not only was it a brutal move, but here's the thing. You had it was just one of those things where when you have somebody that is look, everybody wanted to see this film, including myself, by the way. I'm not just saying that to say that. But that was one of the very first things he did. He slashed a $90 million film just for tax purposes. Think about that for a minute. This film has so much. First of all, everybody busted their ass on that film. Okay. Second of all, you had an African or Latino star in Leslie Grace, which would have been huge. The cultural impact, that would have almost been like Chadwick Boseman. Okay? Completely wiped it out. Then it was a comedy of errors after that, whether it was TCM, whether it was cutting 400 different movies and programs and everything else, at once to make room for the new stuff, whether it's all of these other things and just saying the wrong things, of course he's going to be the most hated man in America. What did you think? Then you have the strike going on. Then he goes to Cannes and decides, I'm going to throw myself a party. It's all about perception. How do you think that's going to look? People are fighting for their jobs and you're out there having a grand old time. I don't understand. So of course he's going to be, and to see what Nolan did, I totally agree with him. Okay, he had been working with Warner Brothers for 20 years, and he goes off and they do something stupid like that. Denis Villeneuve, okay, actually wrote an absolutely scathing op-ed in the New York Times, and you guys can go Google that if you want. And he ripped them a new one. Because at the time, they didn't know if they were going to make Dune 2. They didn't know. Of course, they made Dune 2, and we're all going to be looking forward to that in October and November. But it's like, come on. So this is why he takes Oppenheimer to Universal. Come on. So this is why he's the most hated man in the entertainment business right now. My point is this. When you think that you're powerful enough to get an article pulled because you don't have that thick of a skin, I'm sorry. Deal with it. Nobody has done any of this stuff except you. Okay? You don't want to give the writers any leeway. You're at Cannes throwing a party, okay, while meanwhile people are fighting for their jobs. You are cutting TCM, which has all of the classical movies on it, okay? You axe a movie that is, even if it was bad, people wanted to see it, just because of the revelation that would have been. They axe a $50 and $90 million movie for tax purposes. Leslie Grace was broken, and look, she's gonna work again. She was broken up about this. Broken up. He doesn't care about anybody. Anything. Okay? So that's my thing. When we get to a point where we're starting to censor things, that's my problem. You know? And for GQ to recuse themselves and say, look, we screwed up. Bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit on that. Because Bailey's smart enough to know that he has, they're going to contact him. What the hell do you think they're going to say? Oh, well, yeah, David's made some mistakes in the past. Of course not. Please. He's not going to admit to his guilt. He's going to blame the writers for not taking their medicine. He's going to blame, the Times, the Financial Times. He's going to make all these excuses. He doesn't care about film at all. This is going to be, within the 8. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if by the end of 2024 we're not talking about this company being sold. That is an honest truth. Because he doesn't want to deal with the headaches. They're already $1 billion in debt. Okay? So many different factors and things here. But, I mean, whether it's the marketing like this, whether it's Batgirl, whether it's the WGA, he is, and look, he could turn it all around. But he doesn't want to. And that's the main difference. So, I have a problem with censorship. And as I said, I'll put the original article in there and you guys can read it. And you guys are bright enough to know that this is not on The Journalist or GQ. This is on HBO Max. So, anyways, guys, what do you think about GQ actually pulling the article? Do you think that they should have pulled it? Do you think Bailey was wrong and he didn't go through all the right steps? Or do you think GQ should have said, here, take your medicine? We have freedom of speech. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay, so a couple of quick things. As I said, perfect movies. I'm going to be doing Skyfall. I'm going to once this is done and uploaded, and I'm going to be cutting this up. I'm going to sit down and watch Skyfall, and sit down and watch Fallout today. And so coming up tomorrow, of course, we have Secret Invasion Thursday. Okay, so we'll be doing all a spoiler cast about Secret Invasion Thursday. Friday, we've got Mission Impossible. Saturday, because there's not a big movie coming out this week, Saturday will be Ask Me Anything. And of course, guys, I'll tweet out times and I'll probably put it in the community post for everybody. And then, so I know what I'm going to do for, I think I know what I'm going to do for July and August for the perfect movie. So I'm probably going to do Skyfall, like I said, and then August will probably be Spotlight. So, and then, yeah, so I've got an idea what I'm going to do for Mob Mondays. I've got to think about what I'll do for Rewatch Wednesdays, and those will definitely be up in the coming days. And guys, if you want to go, I know Metal's here and a couple of other people. So they're members. There's a couple different ways you can support me. One being a member. Okay, I made it very cheap for everybody. Starts at $2.99, $5.99, $9.99. If you want to go head on over to Patreon, there's two different things: Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays. $5 and $10 respectfully. I'm not asking a lot because I know times are tough right now. So you can pick up a mug at the a T-shirt, a hoodie at the store. That will help. Or if you want to come in and you like the content and whatever, and you just want to drop super chats, those are always appreciated. Yeah, and so I'm actually that's that. And yeah, so I'm going to be going to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning on the 10th. I got my ticket for that, so excited to say the least. I'm not seeing any reviews on it. I mean, obviously I know it's going to be positive. So, I'm seeing it in IMAX too. So, I mean, that was one of the films I was that and Oppenheimer, the two other movies I want to see in IMAX. So, yeah. So that is about it. So, as I said, I might be doing a space today or tomorrow, depending on how time permits or whatever. So, but yeah, so that is the rest of this week coming up. So, okay, guys, do the three things you got to do: be safe, be careful, have a great rest of the day, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Secret Invasion Thursday. Okay. I'm David Steele, and this has been Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.